Man with Gareth McGuinness.
Welcome back to the channel. Huge show they talk about tonight, Owen. We're going to be looking back at the weekend's results. Some big games in there. Obviously, North London Derby was the big game of the weekend. It was a very entertaining 2-2 draw. Liverpool got a 3-1 victory against West Ham. They're up to second. We're going to be looking at if they are the biggest challengers to Man City. A lot of Liverpool fans are very happy at the moment. Another defeat for Chelsea as Pochettino under pressure. We're going to be talking about Bruno Fernandes's amazing volley and why he seems to perform against the smaller teams, but in the big games at times away from home he goes missing. We're going to be looking again another great one for Brighton. And Everton got their much needed victory, their first victory of the season. And we're going to finish off by looking at the League Cup, with the League Cup third round kicking in this week. Most of the bigger sides come on to it. Not if you're a Spurs fan, we're already knocked out of it. So we're going to be looking at why teams make so many changes and offers pressure from board members to sort of put out weekend teams because there's so much money involved. And if you're a team fighting relegation to stay in the Premier League, or if you're a team going for Champions League football, almost like the League Cup as an inconvenient for Premier League teams. And we're going to finish off, I suppose, by looking at the weekend's big game coming up, which is going to be Spurs against Liverpool. So, Owen, how are you?
I'm good. Everything's rosy at the minute if you're a Liverpool fan, so I can't complain.
Up to second place in the league. We're going to be talking about Liverpool very, very shortly, but
hopefully
there's only one place to start.
And hopefully we end the season first, but we'll see.
Arsenal drew 2-2 with Spurs yesterday in the North London Derby. I actually predicted the scoreline 2-2.
You said you knew before the game,
so this is one for me. But you know what? Fascinating game. I thought Spurs had a very shaky start. I expected Arsenal to be fast out of the blocks. They put Spurs under real pressure, and the Spurs' credit, they continued to try and play the way that Ange wants them to. And in the end, they got a 2-2 draw. Owen, what was your thoughts on the game?
I sort of agree with you. For the first, I'd say 20 minutes, Arsenal were the dominant team, and then Spurs just sort of came after the first goal. I thought Spurs were the dominant team. Even in the second half, I thought Spurs came out of the blocks better in the second half. But then I think the game turned on the Gabriel Jesus miss when he robbed Madison and ballooned it over, because if that had went 2-0, I couldn't see Spurs coming back from that. But when Gabriel Jesus missed that, that sort of gives Spurs a shot in the arm. They say we can get something here.
I agree. I mean, it was a huge momentum swinger. You don't know how things are going to go, but it does seem that after that, Spurs grew into the game a bit more. Maybe that was a wake-up call he needed. They did seem to be, although they were playing out of the back quite a lot, they seemed to play it forward a wee bit quicker after that Madison incident where Jesus really should score. And in the end, Spurs could get back. And Raya made an unbelievable save. They keep it at 1-0. And then
unbelievable.
Incredible. And then a few minutes later, Spurs equalise. And then we go into the second half. And again, I think Spurs started the second half quite well, but they got that, Arsenal get that penalty from the handball. We're going to be looking at that as well to see if there's enough clarity around the handball. But not a minute later, Spurs are back in at a 2-2, and you're thinking, oh my God, there's still 35 minutes to go. How many more goals is there going to be? But in the end, I think the game petered out. I think the game kind of petered out. I think both teams looked quite tired, and we're going to be looking at, Arsenal had a few injuries, and then I think Spurs lost Madison and Son. They both come off. So, in the end, a lot of quality had left the pitch. But, Owen, do you think, obviously before the game, Spurs fans would have really been happy with a point. I would have been delighted with a point. But I sensed at halftime when Rice went off, Martinelli wasn't playing, Trossard wasn't playing, Rice went off injured at halftime. 3 key players. Thomas Partey's already out injured, so there's 4 key players that Arsenal were missing. I had a sense at halftime that Spurs could maybe win this now. And Arsenal didn't create a while out in the second half. Bar that penalty, I don't really remember anything else happening. And the fact that the first goal Arsenal scored was actually a Spurs own goal, so it was an hour mistake. I know they had a couple of hour chances, but in the end there wasn't loads and loads. The keeper didn't have a lot to do. And with them injuries, do you think Spurs will look at it at the end and think, oh, we missed that great chance to maybe end that Arsenal record of 13 years we had won there?
They could do, but then nobody gave them a chance of going into the game to get a point. I think I heard Paul Merson.
He says we're going to get battered, didn't he?
I thought you were, but I heard Paul Merson saying that Arsenal were going to kill you, but his football opinion is, I don't know, it's just no. But I
He,
was
uh, he,
very.
he said it was going to be an absolute slaughtering session. He actually had to apologise to the Spurs fans today, and he actually says
I
that
seen that.
he can see them making top four now, and that if Liverpool won on Saturday against Spurs, they're title contenders. So he makes some very interesting predictions. He also had Spurs to finish. He says Spurs will be lucky to make a top 10. So I think
I think
some of these predictions can be quite knee jerk.
I think he just sort of changes his mind on the result that happened. But no, I think for Spurs, I think it's a good point. But then at the end of the day, if you want to challenge the likes of Arsenal, Liverpool, you have to when you're on top, you have to win them games. So it sort of depends on what happens in the Liverpool game. If you beat Liverpool, then I think people will really sit up and look at Spurs and think they're the real deal here.
I thought in the end both squads were exposed. I know Arsenal have got a lot stronger, but I think because they lost so many key players, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
Losing Rice and Party in the same position, Jorginho's nowhere near the level of them two. They don't really have a replacement for Saka, so when Saka went off as well,
It was
there's
just awesome, wasn't
no Nelson, but he come on the left, didn't they? So
it?
they haven't really got like a left footer replacement. Pepe was there; he's been let go. They haven't. That's Saka, Party, and Rice are probably their three most important players, and they ended up
Yeah.
finishing the game without any of them on the pitch. And I thought as
Trossard was
well,
hurt as well.
Trossard was out. So when you think about Matt and Martinelli, so when you think about that as well, with Madison going off, Spurs haven't got anyone like him, and Son going off, they haven't really got a replacement for Son. So just to focus on Spurs there, did it show as well that Spurs are maybe one or two injuries away from being a very average team? Because I mean, Højbjerg come on, Richarlison come on, and Spurs didn't really have any threat at all in them final 15 minutes.
I think, to be honest, I think the key is Madison. If he has an injury, I think you could be in trouble.
And I'm
And
hearing, I'm hearing it's all good and he's fine.
I like. I'm not going to lie. At the start of the season, I said to myself, I didn't see it with Madison. I didn't see the hype, but he sort of proved me wrong, and I'll put my hands up and say he's been probably the signing of the season. Obviously, I have my own opinion. There could be another person that I nominate for that, but I generally think if Madison gets a bad injury, I think you could be in trouble. I generally thought yesterday when he went on that challenge, I thought he broke his ankle, but
I looked awful. I thought I even possibly had a cruciate ligament. I was my heart. I mean, actually, my head was on my hands. I was actually watching it in the pub, my local pub, and my head was on my hands because I was thinking, oh my god, not just about Liverpool, but if he's out for the season, we've got no one else like him to come on. And as you said, he's been so influential. He's got the most assists by any player. He's got 4 assists. He scored 2 goals, so he's averaged a goal and assist every game, and he's been pretty influential in all of them. And as you've seen, when he didn't play against Fulham in the League Cup, Spurs struggled to create anything. And yesterday when he went off, Spurs had nothing really going forward. I know Son went off as well. So it does. I think Spurs need to keep their best 11 players fit all season if they're going to have a go at making top 4.
which
But
could be easier because
I do have to say though, this only playing once a week, as you've seen with Arsenal, they aren't used to it. They only played Europa League last year, but they were making a lot of changes. They played their full strength against PSV. They're picking up more injuries. You think that Spurs have a massive opportunity here? The fact that they're not in any other competition, they've went out of the League Cup already. The next competition they'll play in is the FA Cup, and depending on how that goes, I think if we're anywhere near that top 4 in January, Ange just already says that he wants to win trophies, but he just doesn't want one trophy. He wants to build a team capable of challenging for multiple trophies. So I think for him, he's going to really prioritize that top 4 spot.
It could be a very good helping hand. The Spurs having only one game a week, but it all comes down to 2. Like I said, if you keep your key players fit, if Madison's injured, if Son gets injured, if even Richarlison to a certain extent gets injured, but if you keep your first 11 fit, you definitely have a good chance of top 4. Like.
Arsenal missed a couple of chances, and Kerry missed one, and Jesus missed that huge chance. Do you think Arsenal are lacking an out-and-out goal scorer? Is that the difference between them and Man City? We've seen Haaland. He gets that chance that Jesus had. It's a goal, in my opinion. If a Harry Kane gets that chance, he scores. Even a Salah gets that chance, he scores. A Son, he was clinical yesterday. Arsenal, they don't really have that out-and-out goal scorer. Like last season, Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, and Keita, they all chipped in with goals each. Odegaard scores a lot of goals, but they haven't got like an out-and-out striker. Do you think is that the one area they're lacking?
Because Jesus, as much as he's a very good hold-up player, and with his back to goal, he's probably the best in the league. But Even in Man City when they were winning everything, he wasn't really a prolific goal scorer. So if Arsenal really want to go out there and challenge, I think they need to buy like a number 9 who's going to guarantee 15, 20 goals a season. And I've seen them like with Ivan Toney for January, but I still don't as good as he is. I don't know if he would suit their style of play.
And I'm hearing that Chelsea are favourites. They get him as well. I'm talking about
No, of course,
16 million fee.
no, of course they are.
Arsenal are interested, but I believe Chelsea may actually get him. Look, I think this is one of the things that's very frustrating for football fans at the moment. The handball rule. Now, personally, for me, yesterday, as soon as I seen this happening, I thought it was going to be a penalty. Even in live play, I thought penalty. I think the referee was about to whistle, but because he had the VAR, I think he was banking on he was going to have an hard chance to look at it, and he ended up being sent over. But we've seen a Romero handball against Man United not given, and then we've seen that one yesterday. And if you look at the United one, the ball travels from further away than this one does. And
Yeah.
it does have his hand. It is going on target, and I understand that. But what can Romero actually do? He's off balance.
I,
He has to plant his foot. Therefore, his arm is going to come away from his body.
I actually,
It's a frustrating one because for a player, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't really blame Romero for that penalty being
No.
given against him, but yet he's being punished for it. So, do you think? And we're seeing these handball. We've seen the one that Luton got at the weekend. I thought that was very, very harsh. We've
It
seen
was.
some this year given and some not. Do you think this is the biggest sort of red line in football at the moment, the handball rule?
even even the red card rules a bit iffy as well. But I don't. For me, I don't think yesterday was a penalty because, as you say, Romero is trying to kneel down to block the shot, and your automatic reaction is when you're kneel down is to move your arm. So I think if one penalty should have been given, it should have been the one against United compared to the one yesterday. And then for me, Nketiah should have been sent off as well. So I, it's just the standard of refereeing. We talk about it every week. The standard of refereeing is just not up to the level of the Premier League.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this VAR nonsense, the it's not really. It was brought in to improve. I don't think it's improved a lot. There's still a lot of.
I think I think it's
still a lot
got
of grey
worse year
areas.
on year.
Sorry.
I think it's got worse year on year
Yeah, I think
because they keep changing it.
that's what I'm saying. I think they've changed the handball rule that much now. No one really knows what a handball is and what a handball isn't. But that one yesterday, I thought was really harsh. But I can understand why it was given because we've seen ones given this year. But the problem is not all are given, and some are not given, as we've seen about the Romero one against United, which I thought was more of a penalty than this one.
It's different too because, as you seen last week in the Bayern Munich United game, that penalty that was given against Ericsson wouldn't have been given in the Premier League, but it would
Yeah.
be given in Europe. So they're
'Cause I,
different. rules.
we were actually talking at the time of that
Nah.
penalty was given, and I said to you that is never a penalty in a million years. But I knew as
No.
soon as the referee in Europe, it's different. I knew he was going to be sent over, and once he got sent over, he was always going to give it. But I thought it was very harsh. But I think you picked up on a good thing there with the Nketiah. Apparently, I was listening to Dermot Gallagher today on Sky, and he says the reason it wasn't a red card was because he didn't actually connect with him properly. But I mean,
For
if
me,
he
it
connects
doesn't
with him
matter.
properly, if he connects with him properly, that's a career-ending tackle because his
Yeah.
leg was actually planted on the turf. He could
Seen
have
that,
really
yeah.
snapped his leg in half, and he was nowhere near the ball, and it looked as well like he was going in to do it. Not so
Nah.
much because he was never going to get the ball. So, do you think Arsenal caught a break there? He was very fortunate to stay on because for me, intent's just as bad as it happened.
Oh, 100%. Like, for him to say, oh, I didn't connect with him, it doesn't matter. Like, if he had a connected with him, that's a broken leg. Like, so it's they always say, are you endangering an opponent? Well, even if you don't connect with him, you are endangering him because if you do connect with him, that's dangerous play. So I don't know. They don't. So it just depends on the referee on the day. Like they don't know what they're at.
Look, final thoughts on the game. Do you think it was a better point for Spurs than Arsenal, with Spurs being away and having that really bad record at Arsenal, and the fact that, as you said, no one really gave them a chance of getting anything?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a better point for Spurs. And to be honest, I love to see Arsenal fans crumble because they're hard to listen to. So, I think it's a better point for Spurs, especially because of their bad record at the Emirates. I think did you say it's been like 14 years since they won there?
13 years. 2010 was our last league victory. There's been one. There's been a cup victory in there, but like I said, in the league, it's only been one. 1-1 since 2010. Look, I mean, there was loads of football on yesterday, 2 o'clock. It was crazy. I thought even having that game on at the same time. There's so many other games on because I was actually in the pub watching it, and Liverpool West Ham was on behind me, and a lot of people were watching that too. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Liverpool got a 3-1 victory against West Ham.
We're
1-1
becoming
at half
the
time. They had a dig deep second half at the minute. They seem to be coming on strong in games. And in the end, it takes them up to second place with Arsenal drawing with Spurs. Owen, you must be very happy at the moment. And I mean, you said you thought Liverpool were going to have a good season. Are they back?
well, I said to you today without a doubt we're back. Like, but then I was like, surely nobody thought we were going to have as bad a season as we did last year. Like, and that's what they're saying. All Newcastle's there, Spurs is there. Like, but all them teams aren't going to be as bad as they were. So it is going to be an interesting top four fight. But I think we'll definitely be there at the end of the season. And um, as I said to you, obviously we have the Spurs game coming up at the weekend. If we win that, then I think people will really start to take us seriously as title contenders. Obviously, it looks like nobody's going to stop City at the minute, but we just have to keep winning our games and capitalise if they slip up.
Like I thought it was a tricky fixture again. Liverpool haven't had, they've had tough enough games and they've come through most done well. And just that one draw with Chelsea, but I
You
mean,
seem to be
one
winning
one
3
at half
0 at the moment.
exactly, and it was 1-1 at half time. And West Ham are a dangerous team on the counter attack. They aren't really fussed about having, they don't mind not having possession. In these big away games, they can still hurt you in the break. And Liverpool had to dig deep. And Nunez as well comes up in our goal. You've backed Nunez throughout his Liverpool career. Even Liverpool fans have, give him stick. You just give him time, be patient. You can see the quality. And do you think at the minute the patience is working out because he's had a pretty strong start to the season?
Oh, 100%. Like I said to you yesterday, like before he scored, he missed a chance that he should have buried. Like, but what I like about Nunez is when he misses chances, he doesn't let his head drop. He keeps going. he keeps. I agree with that comment. He keeps.
Yeah,
He
thanks.
keeps.
These are quadruple challengers.
I agree. Well, hey, I'm confident on that, so keep it up. But as I was saying about Nunez, he doesn't let his head drop. He keeps going. He keeps getting in there. He keeps making chances, and the fact that Klopp seems to be starting him more in bigger games, and his confidence seems to be sky high at the minute. So he's undroppable at the minute.
Yeah, it meets us saying squad depth will make us champions this year. Do you seem to have a lot of squad depth, especially in them attacking areas? As I said, with Spurs, we don't really have that at the minute. Johnson come off injured yesterday. I don't think he's going to play for next. I would imagine we'll not see him after the international break now with that hamstring issue.
Yeah.
Solomon looks okay, but I'm not sure he's the level of maybe some of the other players. There's no Son's the main goal threat. If anything happened to Son, we would struggle, I think. Whereas Liverpool have got Nunez, they've got Salah, they've got Gakpo, who doesn't even play. Certainly, he doesn't start. You've got
Jota came
Diaz.
on and scored.
You've got players like Mack and Dom here, goal scoring midfielders. There's plenty of goals in that Liverpool team. So Kieran is right. There's definitely squad depth there. Maybe the one area you're probably short is at the back, so you'd be hoping nothing happens Van Dijk or Kanate. But I mean, people forget as well. As Callum said to me before the podcast started, Trent was missing, wasn't he, as well? So they've done quite well. We're going to look at the sort of
the back for the weekend, anyway.
Of course, he loves a game against Spurs. Liverpool in general love a game against Spurs, so it's gonna be one of them games against Spurs. Have it all they prove in terms of it's a fixture that they don't usually enjoy. So I mean, Liverpool at the moment just seem to be going from strength to strength. Even when they go down in games, they're coming back. And I always think a team that can come back in games is always a team with a very strong mentality. And do you think they are capable of challenging Man City? Are they the best? Or the best or rest? Do you think? Arsenal have had a couple of slip-ups at home. Now they have a few injuries. We don't know how long their certain players are going to be out for. But do you think Liverpool are possibly the next best? Are they going to be the team that? I mean, they're the only team that's actually went toe-to-toe Man City over the last few years. Arsenal did last year for most of the season, but fell away towards the end. Whereas Liverpool took them to the final game twice. And that was with them doing Champions League as well. Either winning it or getting to the final. So, if there's any team can do it, do you think it's yourselves, Owen?
100%. We've proven like year on year, well, apart from last year, that we can do it with a proper squad and without getting any bad injuries, and we have more attacking choices now with Gakpo, Nunez, Diaz. The midfield's far better. The defense is The defense is the defense is iffy, but the defense has always really been iffy in Klopp's reign, apart from the season we won the league, really. And then obviously we have the best goalkeeper in the world in our team. So
I mean, I was reading, I was listening to the match today last night. Shea Given was on, and he done a piece today for BBC. Liverpool fans, check it out. It's on the website. But he says that this now, whereas last year he didn't think it did, it almost resembles the Klopp team now. That what his teams are all about: energy, quick, fast
yeah,
pressers. Loads of goals. And that sort of never say die attitude of even when we go down in a game, we come back. So do you think that Liverpool have got their identity back where it was missing at times last year? That they've got that back?
it it's not that we've got our identity back, but we have in a way. But we have better players than we had last year. Like we don't have Henderson, we don't have Keita, we don't have Milner. Like obviously they were great servants of the club aside from Keita, really. But with a lack of Dom in there, McAllister, Curtis Jones to an extent, they're young, they're hungry to impress, and it's a really good time to be a Liverpool fan, and if we can go and beat Spurs at the weekend, then I can't see why we can't challenge Man City. Obviously, obviously, Man City are favourites because they just look like they're unbeatable at the minute. But hey, when they come to Anfield or we go to the Etihad, I'm confident we could get a result out of them.
Yeah. You know, we've looked at, we've said that City are 2 points ahead at the top. But do you think in a way Liverpool have had just as, or maybe even a better start? Because if you look at Man City's fixtures and you look at Liverpool have played Chelsea away, Newcastle away, Villa at home, West Ham at home. We've been playing pretty well. So they've had some really difficult games on there. They've got Spurs at the weekend. If they were to go and win that, if they were to come out of them 7 games, only 2 points behind City, with City then having to go to Arsenal before the international break. I'm not sure. Liverpool actually play away to Brighton, so that's another tough game. But even if they come out of them 8 games, I always sort of say at the start of the season, I always say it's like 3 blocks of 4, 12
Yeah.
games before the international breaks all finish. So take them in blocks of 4. And after this block of 4, if you're 2 points behind City or even possibly level, do you think that will make it that you have had a better start because you have had the harder games?
It's hard to say because like you would say Man City have had the better start because they've won every game, and it really doesn't matter who Man City play because whoever Man City play, they're always going to be favourites
Yeah.
going into the match, like because of how good they are. So it for me, as I said earlier on, like we just have to keep winning, keep playing along, and hope someone can take points off Man City, and if no one can until we play them, then hope we can take 3 points off them because I think that's the key. I think we'll have to win. Obviously, we have to win every game to keep up with City, but if we want to beat City to the league, we have to take something from them games.
Yeah. We seen last year Arsenal lost like by 6 points, and in the end were beaten by City twice, and that was the
Yeah.
difference. And City have always had the upper hand on Arsenal. I know Arsenal won that Community Shield and penalties, but in the league, City have dominated them for a number of years. Liverpool, when they were in there, they were always able to beat them, especially at home at Anfield. So that will be an interesting game. I believe it's in November. I think he's go away.
We don't have a good record at the Etihad, so
Mm. Just touch on Man City before we move on. But they got a 2-0 win against Forest. I mean, it was over after 10 or 15 minutes, 2-0 up. But Rodri then goes and gets sent off, and he will miss the next 3 games. I believe that's Wolves away, Newcastle away in the League Cup on Wednesday night, Wolves away in the league, and then obviously the Arsenal game away. So that'll be a big blow.
but then again,
Depending on Arsenal's injuries, we don't know how that'll balance out. But do you think Rodri is? They've lost De Bruyne, but they've got loads of creative players. I'm not sure they've got anyone that can fall in for Rodri. I know Phillips is there, but he's not at the level of a Rodri. Rodri is widely known, touted as the best CDM in the world. So do you think it's key for them that Rodri stays fit?
no, 100% because the drop off from Rodri to Calvin Phillips is big, like, and Rodri is, in my opinion, as much as I don't like him because I just don't think he's likable, but he's a world class footballer and he's the best in that position. It could be a big blow for City, but no one Pepe will have something up his sleeve that'll replace him, and they'll find some weird formation that'll just keep them on running. So it's always hard to judge with City because they're just that good that they find solutions for problems no matter who it is.
Look, I mean, another game yesterday that was huge. Chelsea, Aston Villa. I mean, I keep saying it on here. Chelsea are the gift that keeps on giving, and
I'm enjoying this.
they give us another gift again. Unable to score against Aston Villa, lose the game 1-0 down to 10 men. And I mean, Villa in every big game they've had so far this season, they've lost. They had lost away at Liverpool and Newcastle. They were beaten heavily. They lost away in Europe as well. They've beat the teams that they're kind of expected to beat. The goal
Is Chelsea a big game anymore though? Because
This is
I
that our Chelsea in 2023 are where they are. They've only won 6 or 7 games, I believe, in the Premier League since January. So at the minute they're a real struggle, and I mean we know Potter, it became untenable from in the end for results. Is there a danger it goes the same way for Poch? We're hearing already Chelsea fans aren't happy. Poch already had to try and shake off that Spurs tag. As of yet, he's been unable to do that. And they've been very, very unconvincing. They don't look like they can score goals or win games of football at the moment. Is he under pressure? Even this early in 6 games, is he under real pressure, do you think?
I mean, you're always under pressure when you're at a club like Chelsea because they sack managers like it's Christmas Day. So it's a hard one because is he the one signing the players? Like, is he the one that I'm sure he doesn't want this big of a squad. I'm 100% sure he doesn't want to go and spend. Obviously, he wasn't there for all of it, but this summer, they've signed all these talented players, but it doesn't seem like there's no strategy to it. It just seems like they're throwing money and hoping that it sticks and works out. Like your man Nicholas Jackson, he's suspended now for the next game because he picked up his fifth yellow card. So they have no striker for the next game. I'm not sure who they're playing, but
they're playing Fulham away on the Monday Night Football.
All right. So that
well, let me see. So they've got Fulham away in the Monday Night Football, and they've got Burnley away.
It's like Man City, isn't it?
So that's what I'm saying. They've got Burnley away, Fulham away in the Monday Night Football, followed by Burnley away before the international break. After that international break, they've got a horrible run of games, which includes United, Arsenal, Chelsea. Chelsea have United, Arsenal, Spurs, Brighton, Newcastle. They're all in a row. All these tough games. Do you think he needs to get some sort of points in these next 2 games? Because if he was to lose to Burnley and Fulham, and let's just say they don't score any goals again, do you think he'll be in charge after the international break? Because we know that international breaks can sometimes be when clubs do look to change managers because there's a bit of a break between games. The players are away. We always say when a team's under pressure and struggling, it's the dreaded international break. So if he was to be still sitting on 5 points after these 2 games, does he be in charge for that next game after the international break?
As I say, it's hard to tell with Chelsea under Todd Bowley. He seems to be just pressing the trigger button every 20 seconds. He came out and said he wants to play a 4-4-3 formation, so he doesn't really know much about football. But with Poch, it's a hard one because obviously he has the ex-Spurs connection, so Chelsea fans weren't really a big fan of the appointment in the first place. But if he was to lose the Fulham and Burnley, it would be under serious pressure, and because
they could find themselves in the bottom 3 if results weren't to go their way, and they could find themselves in the bottom 3 on the international break, and it's a scary thought for Chelsea fans because when you've been on such a poor run for so long, this dates back to last season, that there is a danger of you're never too good to go down. I don't expect them to get relegated, of course not. But you just never know in football. Who would have thought last year Leicester would have got relegated? I mean, and they don't have a goal scorer so they have to try and get to January. But then if they do sign Tony or somebody else and he doesn't have the ground running, they're stuck again. So I get the sense that he is feeling the pressure because some of his press conferences and some of the things he's saying doesn't really make sense. He doesn't look the same figure that he was at Spurs. I remember at the start at Spurs, he had quite a difficult start as well. But he always was very calm. He's saying very strange things. And, you can sense that the fans aren't backing him because of the Spurs connection. So, it's a dangerous, dangerous time for him. I think now coming up to this international break, he needs to get at least 1-1, I think, in these next 2 games.
Yeah. If he, as we were saying there, if he doesn't get a 1 against Fulham and Burnley, it'll be very difficult to come back from because of the fixtures they have after the international break. So if they lose the Fulham and Burnley, what happens if they lose to Newcastle, lose the City, lose the Spurs? it's just going to go down, down,
I
down.
mean,
If
I'm going to the Spurs Chelsea game in November, and it's been built up as Poch returning the White Hart name. But do you think if he wasn't to get a one up until that game, he wouldn't be there, would he?
again, you would probably think not, but with Chelsea, you just never know. But then, if you sack another manager under that regime, they've already sacked Potter, Tuchel. If they sack Pochettino, like who else? Like all our managers around Europe or around the world will be looking at Chelsea going, "Do I really want this job? Like it's not a
Do you
secure
think it is
job."
a case of being a poison chalice? Because, Potter went down there, highly regarded, didn't work out. Lampard says there was issues with players there. Poch doesn't seem to be getting a tune out of the players that are there, and the players that have come in haven't really settled. Do you think that any manager is going to struggle under that sort of strategy that they have at the moment?
100%. Like I don't think Pochettino knows his best 11. Like, yes, they've people. I've been listening to a lot of Chelsea fans. Oh, we have injuries, we have this, we have that. He's have spent £1 billion. Like, it doesn't matter if he's have injuries or not. He's have probably the biggest squad in the league. Like, and but I agree. It is for any manager to go in there. It's a very tough job, especially with the owner spending ridiculous amounts of money and thinking that that's just going to make all his problems go away. So he's having a big reality check in European football.
I mean, United have been struggling, right? And we're going to talk about them in a minute, but they managed to win against Burnley way up at quality. Do you sense that Chelsea, they've signed all these players that have got potential quality all our teams wanted, but have they missed the market here? Have they put their faith in too many youngsters who aren't ready for the Premier League or need time and need to play with experienced players, not sort of through with a whole bunch of our inexperienced players? Obviously, we spoke about the lack of a goal scorer. Have they spent this £1 billion wisely? I think the plan was they have all these assets, and that if they're going well, obviously they might keep some of them and sell them on, or sell some of them on to the likes of Real Madrid for huge amounts of money. They put it back into the squad, because obviously the plan, I think, was to become like Man City. Like Man City over the last 3 or 4 seasons have become self-sustaining because they've got so much quality in their squad. They're able to sell players on for big amounts of money and then reinvest that in new players. I think at the start, Chelsea were kind of looking to do that, but because some of these players haven't worked out, they're then forced to go out and pay more. And we spoke about this in the summer, whether this was going to be a good plan or a bad plan, because if these players didn't work out, they were going to be stuck with players that haven't performed on huge wages, on long contracts, living in London. West London's a lovely part of London, trust me. They might not want to leave. So could they be looking at, this isn't just a short-term problem, a possible long-term problem if Pochettino ends up getting sacked, a new manager comes in, has all this dead wood that they can't shift because no one wants them. This could be really dangerous for Chelsea.
As I've said this to you multiple times. Like, if this doesn't work out for Chelsea, then what will he do? If another manager comes in and says, I don't want Saicedo in my starting team, I don't want Mudryk, I don't want Jackson, give me another 100 billion they spend, like, then you've players sitting on monster wages, as you say, living in London, going, I'm not leaving. I'll just sit here and earn me 300 grand a week and do nothing. Like, so it's very. All the Chelsea fans were getting very, very excited when they were spending this amount of money, but it's a dangerous strategy, because if it doesn't work out, it could. I don't think I'll go to this point, but it could really hurt the club in the long run, and they could just go tumbling down. You've seen it with the likes of Leeds years ago, spending amounts of money, and took them a good while to get back into the big league, and then so it's a bad time to be a Chelsea fan, but as an opposition fan, I have to say I'm enjoying it.
Kieran saying it's even United are better run, and that's kind of saying something. Final thoughts on Chelsea, Owen. I mean, do you think Chelsea will be playing Rotherham away next year in August, or do you think they have enough to stay up?
Well, it's hard to say, but I was
listening to a fan on Talk Sport this morning, Chelsea fan. He actually rang up and he says, "I don't think we'll get relegated." But that shows you how much of a mess they're in. That they're even saying, "I don't think we're going to get relegated." They should even. It's a Chelsea. They shouldn't even be talking about relegation.
They'll definitely not get relegated, because the state of the bottom of the league is so bad. So you would have to be absolutely atrocious to drop into that bottom three. But you know what? A lot has happened to Chelsea over the last 18 months since Tall Boys come in, so nothing would surprise me at this point.
Look, United they needed a one. It wasn't
Mm.
pretty against Burnley. There wasn't a lot of quality in the game. Burnley probably had the better chances in the first half. I mean,
They
they
hit the
cut
post,
United
didn't they?
apart for that chance that they had the post way. I mean, he's got to score
Mm.
that chance. They had a lot of possession, Burnley, but they didn't do an awful lot with it. They really lack. We talked about lack of goal scorers. Burnley need a goal scorer. They haven't got anyone up front, and I kind of
No.
think they've got quite a small team, so they had no real options. They tried to, even change the game when they needed a goal. They couldn't really put every corner they took was kind of short. They try and work some out. You know what? They're great to watch. I applaud Company for trying to do what he's going to do, but I mean, I don't see any way they're going to stay up playing this way. That's the only problem. But
No.
United got out of jail with a huge, huge amount of quality in this goal. Fernandez, great pass, and Johnny Evans. I couldn't really believe it. I don't think he
No.
had that in the
The,
locker.
the fact that you just said a great pass from Johnny Evans for Man United in 2023 is just mind blowing to me.
And I mean, Fernandez, he knew exactly what he was trying to do. And I mean, it's a great goal. He scored some great goals for United. I mean, United fans love him. But he does tend to do this. He doesn't really perform in the big games away from home. Why do you think that is? He's got undoubted quality. There's no even Liverpool fans, well,
No,
that don't like him. It's
he's
hard
a
to
great
question
player.
he's got quality. Do you think he just doesn't have the mentality when it comes to the big away games?
I just think the pressure gets to him because, as you see, he is a player that likes to. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He moans at officials a while lot. So I think when things don't go his way in big games, he just loses the head, and then type of games you can't do that because you'll get punished. As you seen last season, United got a tanking in a lot of big games. The 6-3 against Man City, the 7-0 against Liverpool. Have to get that in there. But he just seems to crumble under the pressure of big games, which is interesting because he's a top quality player and he's played at World Cups, he's played at Euros for Portugal, so it's a strange one. But when he's playing against the likes of Burnley or West Ham or someone like that, he seems to show up. But in the big games, he just doesn't seem to have it.
I mean, it was a huge one for United. They had to find
Mm.
some way to stop the rot.
Yeah.
And it was a game. It was a tricky game under the lights of Burnley. Burnley got their first result of the season away to Forest, possibly could have won the game. And Burnley did cause them problems to a certain extent. But watching United over the last few games, I mean, Reguilon stood out to me as one of their best players, and he couldn't get near the Spurs squad. But not so much for his ability, but just because he seems to be really trying. I don't really
I
see that in
suppose.
some of the United players. I don't think that they're giving everything. I knew Johnny Evans gave everything the other night, and
Johnny Evans
Reguilon
probably
gave
can't believe
everything.
his luck.
What's that?
Johnny Evans probably can't believe his luck.
No, exactly. But I think he's come on and he's a leader as well. I think that's just what United need, a bit of stability.
Yeah.
I don't think long term it's going to work out because I think Evans will be exposed against better opposition. But I mean, they had to find a way to win, but it was very unconvincing. And some United fans did say it's just peppering over the cracks. Do you foresee more issues for United over the coming weeks?
When they come up, like they're playing, I think it's Crystal Palace. They have Crystal Palace
They
back to
have
back.
got a nice run of games coming up at home. I think they have 4 of their next 5 in all competitions at home.
But then Crystal Palace is a tricky. I think they'll beat them. But they have more quality than Burnley. But to get back to the Burnley game, I wasn't really impressed with United. I don't think they played that well. I think if they were playing a better team on the night, they would have got a tanking because Burnley, although they didn't create a lot of chances, they played some nice football. They had the post, which they probably should score. But for United fans, they definitely needed that one just to steady the ship a wee bit. But I'm not too worried about United even after the one because I wasn't too impressed with the way they played.
I mean, everyone was scratching their head yesterday about Sheffield United Newcastle being the 4:30 kickoff, but it produced quite an outstanding result. I mean, there wasn't much in the game up until the first goal, and then it
No.
just seemed to start a flurry of goals going on. I mean, I'm not sure when the first goal went down, but I think it was like 25 or 30 minutes in.
I think I watched it up to 2-0. I think the first goal was in 25, and then I think the second goal was just before halftime.
They scored 2 right before halftime, I think, and then that second half, Sheffield United just capitulated. But focus on Newcastle here. I mean, do you think that's the kind of result they needed? One way about a style, there was a lot of negativity around. People were questioning Eddie Howe. Would he survive if results didn't improve? Because Newcastle have had that taste now, Champions League football, they want to stay there. But I mean, what a result, what a performance. Sheffield United have been very difficult opponents for a lot of teams this year, despite the fact that they've lost all their, they've lost most of their games. A lot of them were last minute goals. They Forest, Man City, and Spurs, and Newcastle just took them apart. So big result for Newcastle. I mean, were you impressed?
I mean, I was having my dinner. I was watching the TV. I turned it on to check a result, and I saw it was 8-0. So I was I sort of it took me back a wee bit. But listen, when you beat any team like by a large margin, it is impressive. And I seen that they had 8 different goal scorers as well. So
Nah, I
not
think that's the first time that's ever happened. 8 different goal scorers
uh,
in a game.
and Trippier had, well, was it 3 assists, or I think it was three
Do you
assists they
think it
had
was
as
a bit
well.
of a freak result, or do you think that could be a one to kickstart Newcastle's season?
I mean, they hammered Aston Villa 5-1 too at the start of the season, and people were thinking Newcastle were going to just be the same way. So results like this can happen. I mean, we beat Bournemouth 9-0 last season, and our season was terrible. So it's
And then
freak was
Bournemouth beat you in the reverse game too. It's freaky,
uh,
like how the things can happen.
freak results like that can happen. Like we beat United 7-0 last season. I can't see us doing that again this season. Like, so for Newcastle,
Maybe if Maguire and Johnny Evans play centre back.
here's hoping. But nah, listen, it's a great result for Newcastle, and it could kickstart the season. But them 3 defeats on the bounce, I think, has really hurt them in the early weeks of the season, because I think they're, obviously it's still early, but I can't see them getting back into the top four.
I mean, Sheffield United hammered, only 1 point. Luton struggled. They get their first point of the season against Wolves, but
Now
they've been struggling.
the bottom,
Burnley are struggling as well. Do you think that it's going to be very difficult for them three to stay up? Do you sense that the three that come up with the three going straight back down?
even at this moment in time, as I think I mentioned it earlier in the show, I haven't seen a bottom half of the league this bad in a long time.
Do you think that that's going to? We've seen Spurs, Liverpool, Arsenal, and City picking up a lot of points. Arsenal as well. Do you think it's going to be a very lopsided table where they're going to see a lot of teams pick up points at the top half because the bottom of the league's very, very poor and there's a massive difference in standard?
Oh, 100%. Even like, as much as I hate to say it as a Liverpool fan, even Everton, I know they got their first one at the on Saturday, but they've they, they've played well. Like they should have beat Fulham, they should have beat Wolves. So even Everton
And
could climb
Everton,
up
if
and
you
do
look at
the
Everton's
results.
squad too, with Calvert Lewin and Beto, they've got a bit of quality there. You don't really see that with Burnley, do you? You don't see it with
Yeah.
Sheffield United, you don't see it with Luton, that they're going to have goal scorers on their teams.
No, so I think from Luton, Burnley, and Sheffield United, I think it's going to be. I think it'll be very, very difficult to see them staying up when we have me.
James is scratching his head, doesn't know how United can score three against Bayern Munich and only one against Burnley. That's football, James. I mean,
Probably
I
because
don't think
Bayern
Bayern
played.
Munich. I know Bayern Munich won 7-0 on Saturday, but I didn't think Bayern Munich were particularly impressive either. I don't see them winning the Champions League even with Kane. Look,
Your boys scored a hat trick too.
hat-trick and I got a couple of assists too, I believe. Brighton, I mean, they've won again. And we said about Everton getting a huge one. Look at Brighton here first. I mean, tricky game after, people says how will they handle the Thursday, Sunday. Obviously, they had a slip up on Thursday night, but they responded against that. Definitely an improved Bournemouth team from last season. In the games I've seen them, they've been braver. They look, I think, a bit more quality, but they're playing very open. And as you've seen, when they play against better teams, it's going to be difficult for them. They won them games, and
Yeah.
they did take a lead, but we're beaten 3-1. I mean, Brighton, I think, were one of them teams over the last few seasons, especially under Potter, where they always had good results on them, but they struggled to back it up. I mean, under De Zerbi, that seems to have changed. They've won 5 of their first 6 games, sitting third in the table, just at that one slip up against West Ham where they dominated the game, but they were done on the counter attack.
Yeah.
Do you think are Brighton, one of them teams now that are, it's nearly a surprise if they don't win a game because they're so good?
Brighton for me are top 4 contenders. Like, why shouldn't they be? They play great football. They have a great manager. The quality
Do
of
you
play.
think if Pochettino was sacked that Chelsea would be going back to Brighton? I mean, it didn't work with Potter, but do you think that De Zerbi would be the obvious contender?
I hope not, because if Klopp, I hope De Zerbi stays there for a couple of years and then we go get him after
Well,
when.
let's just say, right, Pochettino was sacked. Just play a bit of interactive stuff here, right? And anyone in the chat wants to get involved, get involved. But if De Zerbi gets sacked, or sorry, if Pochettino gets sacked, and Chelsea do approach Brighton for De Zerbi, do you think he would be wise to go there after what's happened with
No,
Potter, Pochettino? Potter kind of damaged his reputation a lot.
yeah,
I mean, Pochettino's reputation wasn't great after PSG, and he's went to Chelsea. If this doesn't work out, that he could be really struggling for another top job. Um, it's almost like a graveyard for managers at the moment. So, do you think De
yeah.
Zerbi should wait it out, stay at Brighton? He's building something special there, and then maybe wait until a Man City or a Liverpool job becomes available, where you're going to be a much more stable club.
Like, even take the Potter stuff out of it. Take all the players that Chelsea have took from Brighton. Brighton are a better team. They're a better club at the minute. So it's mad they say this because of the size of clubs. But if he was to leave Brighton for Chelsea, it would be a step down at the minute.
I mean, I was watching the Saturday Night Football, Brentford Everton. I didn't expect. Brentford are a very strong home team, but I have to say Everton were by far the better team.
And they were
They've
very
got this.
good.
We've seen it away at Brighton last year, where they went and produced a big result. And it was a deserved one. Brentford were very poor as I can ever remember seeing them at home.
Yeah.
And do you think now that they're starting to miss that Ivan Toney presence? They didn't really have anything up front, and Buemo had probably one of his worst games I've seen. Kept giving the ball away, and it looked a really struggle at times for Brentford to create anything at all. So just focus on Everton before Brentford, but huge one. They needed it as well. There was a lot of rumours about Deitz. Fans weren't happy with the style of play, and I thought Everton were quite positive. It wasn't like they sat back. They took the game to Brentford, and Beto. I think Beto looks like a great signing. A couple of chances he had, he probably should do better, but he was a constant threat. The Corey, I mean, even last season as well, seems to be really thriving in that new role higher up the pitch. And Calvert-Lewin coming off the bench scored. Exactly, and Calvert-Lewin coming off the bench. I mean, he has to try and stay fit for them. He does have his struggles, but you see him when he come on, he's got that composure, and he scores the goal that seals the 3 points. So, do you think that's the one for Everton? Now they can try and kick on?
100%. Like, as much as I said to you at the start of the season, I can see Everton going down, but I didn't foresee the bottom three as they are now being as bad. Maybe Luton, but not the other two. So if Everton can get a couple of results going into the international break, they'll be quite confident after the international break. But I think their first fixture after the international break is actually away to us. So if they can get 2 wins before that game, they'll be going on that game.
I think they've got Luton at home at the weekend, and I think they have somebody else at home, as a Bournemouth or something. They have two favourable home games, but they've struggled at home. They haven't scored a goal at home yet.
I mean, they should beat Luton easily.
I mean, that's a huge game for Luton, because if Everton were to beat Luton, I think that they would be 7 points of clear Luton, and already that you're thinking if Luton's going to stay up, Everton's going to be one of the teams they're going to have to try and stay up at their expense of. So 7 points already looks a big gap for Luton, doesn't it?
I generally think Luton will break Derby's 11-point record this season.
You don't think they'll get 11 points?
No.
Very interesting.
They don't have the quality.
I mean, Brentford as well. We speak about Brentford quickly, but do you think that was a very concerning result at home? They're usually strong at home. The performance was poor. I know it's only one game, but Tony looks now like he won't be back at Brentford once the January window opens. It looks nailed on. He's going to go to Chelsea or Arsenal or somewhere, but Chelsea seem to be a team heavily linked. Thomas Frank admitted on Monday Night Football when he was a guest the week before that he will move if the right money comes in. So it's pretty much a rebuilding process there for Brentford now. So it's going to be a big struggle for them to try and they finished ninth last season. That's going to be very difficult to achieve now, isn't it?
I think Brentford will finish between 15th to 13th, something like that. I don't think they'll finish top half, and they have a big injury to what's their left back's name? Henry, I think.
Henry, he's a good player.
He's a big loss for them because he just bombs up and down the left hand side. So he's a very good player, and that injury he got against Newcastle was tough. And not only Tony they lost David Raya, the Arsenal, and I'm not convinced with their keeper that they have at the minute. He looks shaky when balls come into the box. He looks shaky. He gave away that penalty against Newcastle, which was awful because he didn't need to touch the player. But I can see Brentford struggling this season. I don't think they'll be relegated, but I think it'll be a very disappointing season compared to last season for Brentford fans.
I mean, the EFL Cup's back this week. Kicks
Yeah.
off kicks off tomorrow night. I mean, a lot of teams get criticised for making changes when they lose a game in the League Cup. But do you think this comes straight from the top that has the Premier League money and the money involved in the Premier League and the Champions League sort of ruined the League Cup? Because if you're a team chasing top four is more valuable they a club in terms of their finances than it would be to win a League Cup. If you're a team that's fighting relegation or a team from the Championship fighting for promotion to the Premier League, that it's nearly like an inconvenience because if you won a League Cup at the expense of being relegated, or if you won the League Cup at the expense of just missing out in the Champions League, or if you won the League Cup at the expense of missing out on the playoffs, I know it's very unlikely that would happen, but if that was to happen, and we've seen Wigan when you're won the FA Cup and get relegated, and they haven't come back to the Premier League since. So do you think both sort of that this comes from the top that your job is going to be judged on your Premier League and your league position as opposed to winning the League Cup?
For big clubs, I like for me as a Liverpool fan, we won it a few years ago when I was.
Well, no. All I'm saying is, like Spurs aren't playing in Europe this year, yet still made 9 changes against Fulham.
Yeah.
When they don't really have that many games compared to what they would normally have, but yet they still did it, and that tells me that Ange Postecoglou was told by Daniel Levy that you're going to be judged on getting Spurs back in the Champions League, not so much about a League Cup run, because Spurs are desperate for a trophy, the fans are desperate for a trophy, but yet that was kind of seen as, what, we'll make a lot of changes, and if we get through, happy days. If we don't worry about it. We're all about the Premier League. I mean, I would imagine Liverpool's playing Leicester tomorrow night, and I would imagine Leicester will do the same because they're top of the Championship, trying to get back into the Premier League. You probably see 2 completely different teams they played at the weekend. So why do we see this happening?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's not the biggest competition for the likes of Liverpool, Spurs, the big teams. It's not really a important cup to win. But for me as a fan, like I love any cup competition that we're in, because when you're in a competition where it's the League Cup or the Europa League that we're in the season, I want us to go and win everything we're in. So I'll be hoping we get to Wembley again.
Do you think that when we see all these changes, it kind of proves that theory that owners are more interested in finances than they are about glory? You know what I mean? I can definitely say for one thing that, because I mean, if Ange Postecoglou played his full team against Fulham, I think we probably won that game.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to take a risk of maybe a player getting injured or anything like that there. So do you almost feel like some teams they feel like it's like an inconvenience? They have these games, they have to play them, but that there's no real, from the club side, obviously fans care, but you sort of feel that the owner's like, well, if you get knocked out, it's not the end of the world as long as we won on Saturday.
You're probably right, but clubs these days, especially in the Premier League, they should be able to field 2 strong 11s to compete. So no matter who.
Do you know what would be very interesting, right? Yeah. If they made the Premier League, right? You only got under the Premier League. Now with this 5th place opening up, but we'll just go back to the traditional top 4 places. If they made the Champions League, you only get into the Champions League if you finish 1st and 2nd, the League Cup winners and the FA Cup winners. Now, if the League Cup winners and the FA Cup winners finish in the top 2, then places go to 3rd and 4th. But obviously that's not going to happen every year. So do you think something like that you would? I mean, I have no doubt in my mind if they made the League Cup, if you won the League Cup, a Champions League place, all these teams start taking the League Cup more seriously because the money involved in the Champions League. I mean, we see it in the Europa League that a lot of teams weren't bothered with and then they changed it that if you won the Europa League, you get in the Champions League. Therefore, more teams took it seriously. So do you think maybe something like that? I mean, I was thinking about it today, when we're on the podcast, what could we talk about? And I was thinking that maybe that was one idea we could float. Don't know if anyone in the chat, if you agree, but do you think that will be one way of making the FA Cup and League Cup back to this kind of where it was years ago? That if it became a Champions League place, became available for one, that clubs would take it more seriously?
It could be, but then the League Cup winners normally are a team that already are going to be in the Champions League. I know you said it could drop
Well,
down
it
to
would
fourth.
only it would only be the top two under this
Yeah,
sort of thing that I created here in my head.
it's a difficult one for me. If I was to pick one of the two, I always prefer the FA Cup, like the FA Cup special. Like I don't know what it is. I
Well,
just
see, in my opinion, right, it's harder to win the League Cup or the FA Cup than it is to finish third or fourth in the Premier League because it's knockout football. Anything can happen.
it's one
There's a
off
reason
game
Spurs. There's a reason Spurs haven't won a trophy for 15 years. Liverpool
because
went
you
was it
because
many
you're
years?
terrible.
Well, well, many years. Arsenal went 9 seasons with a trophy. United went 6 years there. You won the League Cup in 2012, and your next one then was when was that?
Our next trophy then was when we won the League Cup in 2022, I think.
Well, he's won the Champions League. Was it so? Was the Champions
That's
League was the next one?
sorry.
So
Champions
so
League
they,
was
they went on
our
quite a drought as well. So it
yeah,
shows you that because it's knockout football, anything can happen. So
yeah.
maybe this will be one way because I mean, in 15 years, Spurs have finished in the top four maybe 5 or 6 times, and then 15 years, but haven't won a trophy. So in my head, it's much harder to they won a trophy than it is they won. So I
Like
mean, imagine the reward. The reward
yeah.
was got into the Champions League, and I think that would completely change how teams view these competitions.
It's an interesting point, but it it'd be interesting. What if unknown?
Well, sorry, just to come back to Callum's question. If well, fair. You get into the Champions League. That's just the way it is. I mean,
So,
Wigan won the
Wigan
FA Cup
won
and they were in the Championship, and they went on the Europa League, and they got knocked out in the qualifiers. But that would just be how it is. I mean,
yeah,
it's very unlikely. I think we have the much quality around the Premier League now at the minute that a non-Premier League team would win it because you would the Man City usually do well in this League Cup. Liverpool. If you look at the winners over the last few seasons, it's usually been a top sort of six. It's usually been a top six team. So, but if
yeah,
that was to happen, Callum, then they've got the reward. They're in the Champions League.
yeah.
But I don't know how anyone feels about that. Obviously, let us know in the chat. That was
It's
one
it's
idea I
a,
had.
it's, an, it's an interesting one.
I think it would be brilliant. I think it would be, it would stop all this top four nonsense as well. And, a team won the League Cup then would almost feel that they're getting a double reward. They're
There's
getting
a
obviously the League Cup plus they're in the Champions League the following season.
there's been a lot of talk to you about scrapping the League Cup completely. So, it sort of just shows the importance of it because it sort of changes its name every couple of years. So,
But no, look, it is one for a debate. So let us know in the comments what you think about that proposal. Maybe I'll talk to the FA about it, and we'll see what they say. Owen, it's been a good show. We're going to finish off by looking ahead to the big game at the weekend. I know you're very excited about it. So am I. I mean, again, I think this is going to be similar to the Arsenal game, where we're going to see two teams that are going to go out to win the game, be very attacking, and
yeah,
it'll be punch for punch. I mean, how are you feeling about the game? Liverpool's flying, Spurs are doing very well. It's two sides that I think will definitely be competing for top four minimum, and you
yeah.
never know what'll happen. But I do sense that these two teams will be up there towards the end of the season.
I said to you earlier on that I think it'll be if I was to put my money on it now, if I was a betting man, I would say a draw. But as I said to you, I think if any team will win it, that it will be Liverpool, just because we have more attacking threat than you do. But then again, and there will be goals because both defenses are not great. So and they play. We both play very high lines. So it could be 2-2, 3-3, 4-4. Like
Mm.
Liverpool Spurs games are never dull. As we saw last season, we went 3-0 up. You came back to 3-3, and then Jota won it in the last minute.
It
So
is one of them games as well. I always say, even when Spurs are playing that negative football, they're seeming to produce goals. These games, I mean,
yeah,
Spurs Arsenal for me is always the game I look forward to because North London derby. But outside of
yeah,
that, I would say Spurs Liverpool's probably equally my favorite game because
yeah.
I mean I don't think it's just me. I think when they ask Gary Neville too, I know he says Spurs Arsenal was his favorite game to comment on, but this couldn't be far behind because I can't
No, it's
remember
really,
too many bad games. I'm not just saying this because we lost it, but the Champions League final was probably the only game I remember
no,
where
it was a
both
bad
teams
game.
both teams weren't great, but I think that had a lot to do with there was like 3 week break between the season finishing
Yeah,
in the Champions League, and it's usually only two. I think that was it didn't help either team. But I mean, usually their top games, loads of goals. Where do you see the game being won and lost? I mean, you spoke about defenses being vulnerable, but maybe we should cut the defenses some slack because I do think with the way two teams that play, there's inevitably going to be space and defenders are going to be put under pressure. So I mean, midfield, are you confident that the Liverpool midfield can stand up to the Spurs midfield? Basuma and Madison have been on fire this season.
um, That's an our key battle, like McAllister versus Madison, because
Do you think
McAllister,
McAllister will play as the number 6 on Saturday? Yep.
I think he will, because I don't think he trusts what do you call him, Endo.
Endo.
I don't think he trusts Endo, and it's a big game. He threw him on the Newcastle game, and he didn't really play well. I went down to 10 men, but away to Spurs, Liverpool have a great record there, but away to Spurs and the way they're playing at the minute will be tough. So I can't see many change. I think if I was going to put out a change, I would say Canate will come on for Matip, but other than that, I can't see much change to the Liverpool lineup.
James is saying, "Come on the pull. Going to be a cracker match." I agree, James. Going to be an absolute cracker.
But
5:30 on Saturday.
you
Um,
agree that he said come on the pull?
no, we're going to be looking at this game more in depth on Thursday. Callum meets us on. We're going to be looking at this. We're going to be looking at the combined 11s as well. That's going to be interesting. Might be a few issues there. But we're going to
I
be
asked you flat out your own mind.
we're going to be tactically looking at it. We should get a bit more team news closer to on Thursday night. We should near enough know who's fit and stuff. If there's any training injuries or anything like that. But I mean, it's a great time for a game, 5:30 on a Saturday as well. I know I'll be having a few pints to watch it, so I'm looking forward to that. But I mean, do you think if Liverpool were to come away with a draw, it would be a good result going away to Spurs, the way Spurs have been playing this season, or do you think that these are the games the way Man City are playing at the minute and the way Liverpool want to compete with Man City, they have to win every game?
I think in a way, if it ends in a draw, both teams will be disappointed because both teams will feel like they can beat the other team.
Meets the same 4-2 Liverpool. Meets we're looking forward to having you on Thursday. I know you'll not be short of confidence. You never are. Meets also says he fancies Liverpool. They won the league, and so far, second in the league. We after a very tough start. Owen, last word on it. I mean, you said to me at the start of the season you think maybe second. Have you changed your mind, or do you think second? That's still more likely going to be second. And do you think that Saturday is going to be a big one? If they were to go early, they go early and won, then they would have more belief and confidence they could do something.
Taking the Spurs game out of it because it hasn't happened yet. I would stick to my second place. I just think City are a bit too strong at the minute.
Callum saying you have to win every game. Because City a draw isn't good enough. And you have to beat them home and away every year. If Liverpool were to win on Saturday, and let's say Man City, they're expected to beat Wolves, and if they were to go to beat Arsenal, would you start to worry as a fan that no matter what we do at the minute, if they keep winning, it's going to be impossible? Because can you see a scenario where Man City do like an unbeaten season? If they come out of this break 8 wins in a row, having went the Arsenal away, which is obviously going to be one of the toughest games of the season. Yeah. Would you be worried with De Bruyne to come back in? They've been missing players as well. They still have so much quality that can come back in that they could just do something that's incredible, do a treble, and then go and do an unbeaten season after.
I always look. You always.
To be fair, it would be Liverpool's luck, wouldn't it, if they were to an unbeaten season? They've knocked you twice with massive point scores.
But no, when I look at the fixture of the season, I go into every game expecting Man City to win every game unless it's against us, because I want to beat them. So I think if we're going to win the league this season, we have to beat City home and away, as Callum says.
We're going to wrap up here, but anybody watching, if you want to stick your score predictions on there before we go, Meets the same 4-2 Liverpool. And what do you think on Saturday? I know we're not going to have you on again before the weekend, so I'm going to give you a chance now to do your prediction. How do you see the game going? And what's your score prediction?
I'm gonna go. I said a draw, but I'll go out in the Liverpool one. I'll say 3-2.
You know what? Before the Arsenal game, I thought, if we can get 4 points out of this, it will be incredible, because we are a new team in transition. No one expected Spurs to be competing for top 4 this year. And after that Arsenal game, we seen that Spurs took a couple of punches in the nose and they come back. They seen the Sheffield United. I know it was only Sheffield United, but they scored 2 injury time goals. That there's Ange is giving them some sort of belief there, and they're able to battle back. They've done it against Brentford. They battled back against Sheffield United. Battled back against Arsenal. Liverpool have been doing that as well. So I don't necessarily think the first goal is that important this week, because both teams have shown this season they're capable of coming back. I think that makes it even more fascinating. But I think Spurs at home. I mean, I've been at the Sheffield United game. I've seen videos before I went to Sheffield United game. the Spurs stadium this season just feels so much different than it's been the last couple of seasons. 5:30, just noticing the podcast tonight, starting at 7 o'clock. As the weeks go on, it was actually dark tonight when I started the game. So probably going to be under the lights on Saturday night, especially definitely for the second half. I think the atmosphere will be electric, and it does give Spurs an advantage. I think at home, just the way it would do if Liverpool were at home. And I think we can beat G's. I think it's going to be a very, very tough game for both teams.
You can beat us.
A lot of goals. I mean, James is saying 3-1 Liverpool. Callum saying 2-1 Liverpool. I think I'm going to go with your prediction. I think it's going to be 3-2 to Spurs.
So either way, we'll get a 3-2 then.
Do you know what? I could see it being a 2-2 as well, but I can see it being one of them. It could go either way. It's impossible to predict. I do see both teams going no chance. There's too much quality. You see me Salah, he doesn't miss when he's in. I think Spurs' best hope is Nunes gets all your chances and he maybe only scores one out of 3 or 1 out of 4. I think at the minute Salah looks like every chance he gets, he'll put it away. Son, 2 chances against Arsenal and he made them look very easy, especially that first one. That was not an easy chance. It was fired on them at piss. 3 players around him. And even the Maddison one, I think the pass to Maddison was excellent. The way the pass was perfect and Son made it look easy. It was still a tough finish.
Would you say this is a harder game they predict than the Arsenal one?
No, they were both hard to predict. I thought the 2-2 against Arsenal, I have to say it was more in hope rather than expectation. But then again, Arsenal had a lot of injuries too. So, would we have got that draw if Arsenal had, their full team on? We don't know. James saying Liverpool love big stadiums. I mean, they do. They have a great record away at West Ham, a great record away at Arsenal, and a brilliant record away at Spurs. I think they've won. They haven't lost at the Spurs stadium. They've had one draw and they won the rest.
We've won every game apart from a draw.
But this is a new Spurs team, Owen, isn't it? This is a new Spurs.
I think since you've come into this, since Spurs have moved into the stadium, I think this will be our toughest game there. But I don't know it's going to be.
It's just a big pitch, just Liverpool. I think the big pitch will suit both teams. I think both defenses will be in for quite a game because so much attacking quality and the way both teams play, you can just imagine chances. And I think it will come down to in the end. Now, I know Callum has been adamant Liverpool are miles ahead of Spurs, but I have to say I don't see a lot on it. I mean, when I was doing I was thinking of a combined 11 today in my head that I'm going to suggest on Thursday to the 2 lads. I had 6 Liverpool players and 5 Spurs players compared to the Arsenal and Spurs. I had 9. I think I had 9 Arsenal players. You sent
it to me, didn't you? The combined 11.
And I think Liverpool have a lot more quality up front. I think that's the biggest area. I think arguably Spurs have a stronger midfield. I think if you were making a combined 11, I think you're having Basuma, Maddison, and Szoboszlai. So I think Spurs have the advantage in midfield. Defense, I'm not sure because I'm not sure Van Dijk's at the level he was. I know Liverpool fans are very protective. I understand why. So I'm looking forward to his combined 11 on Thursday.
He's been all right so far this season.
He has been good. But I think Van de Ven for Spurs has been excellent too. 1v1. It's going to be interesting to see how Udogie copes with Salah because he struggled initially with Saka and he got the grips with him in the second half. Diaz against Porro will be interesting because Porro loves to get forward. I mean, but Diaz is very quick, and if he gets space on him, that'll be interesting. Yeah. So
the way we play,
it's all set up for an absolute cracking game, isn't it?
Oh, I can't wait for it. And if Spurs win, I'm never coming on this podcast again. So good.
But look, that is us. The Premier League review is done. I mean, fantastic. It's been just before we go. I mean, it's been a fantastic season so far. We've seen Man City are flying, Liverpool are flying, Spurs look rejuvenated, Arsenal's not going anywhere, Brighton look like they're getting stronger, Newcastle, they've got a big one now. You expect them to come back. Seems there's so many quality teams about at the moment.
It's getting harder and harder to predict the bigger games.
So final chance to change your prediction for Saturday.
No, I'm gonna stick with 3-2 Liverpool.
So Owen, thanks for coming on. Great show again. Thanks for everyone that's put their comments on. Seems to be a fair few watching. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new around here as well. We're going to be back on Thursday. We're going to be focusing on that Spurs and Liverpool game a lot more, as well as the rest of the Premier League games we'll have a look at as well and give our predictions. But Spurs versus Liverpool, is going to be the main talking point on Thursday, and we've got two big Liverpool fans going to be on the show with us as well.
Oh, you're going to
You
get
know,
some stick.
it's going to be very hard. I think this 1-11 meets will do a darn best. 11 Liverpool players. Owen, thanks very much, and I'll see you soon.
Not about.